Hi everyone, this is Ellie Mae with Silhouette Secrets, and today I'm going to pop into the Silhouette software and do a little bit of designing using the basic shapes. We're all finding ourselves at home more. My kids are home, so we have written out a chore chart, but as you can see, it's very crude. So I thought I would just come into the Silhouette software using some basic shapes and some text, and I will make one that I can print out for each week, and we can add new things onto it as needed. This seems to be helping us a little bit, and the kids at least get their chores done before they're allowed to do their electronics and things like that. So we're going to do this on a letter size piece of paper. You could do it as a print and cut, but there's really no need for me to do it as a print and cut. You could also choose the letter size paper on your page setup panel. It's going to give you about the same option. I'm going to change it to the landscape orientation, and then I'm going to start out by drawing a rectangle. So I'm just going to choose my draw rectangle, and I'm going to draw it out. I want to turn my show cut print border on, so I know the maximum edges of my print area. And that's what it's going to show me there with that gray line. I do have a borderless printer, and so my print border might be farther out than what yours is set to. Going to click on the center to page. I did not choose to make this any particular size, and I really don't need a background for it, but we can give it a frame, and you'll see how I do that here in just a minute. So we're just going to start out with some basics, and I'll add an area up here at the top for a title, and then I can choose my text style tool on the left hand side and click inside of it, and I'm just going to type out Chore Chart. So I click off of it to deselect it and click back on it one time to select it. We're going to go ahead and fill this with the color fill panel on the right hand side, and I'm just going to choose black for right now. I'm going to choose the text style tool on the right hand side, and now we can apply some text properties. So I'm just going to go down through my fonts, and the first time you open your font text style panel, you want to give it a little bit of time to load. It loads all those fonts into the software when you first click on it. And we can choose some and see what's going to work best. Sometimes you can change out your fonts and stretch them a little bit and still have them look okay. So we could do that. There's all kinds of fonts. You can spend all day changing fonts in the software. Depends on how many fonts you have. So let's go back and pick. I think we'll just stick with this one for right now. And then I'm going to draw a couple boxes for the days of the week. So we will just start there. I'm going to use my replicate panel on the right hand side, and we're going to make a couple of copies. So I have 4 days. If I add another, there's 5, 6, 7. If I take and pull this one over a little bit to the right, I can select all of those boxes by left clicking and dragging my mouse across all of the boxes. I want to use my align tools in the top quick access toolbar. I'm going to align the center just in case I moved it out, and then I'm going to space it horizontally. So that gives it a little bit of space between each one of those. While I have that selected, I could also come over here to my line styles panel. I could increase the line width, which is going to print, and I could change the color of that to give it a little bit of a border. I can do the same thing here on my outer edge of my chore chart border on the title. So we can increase that a little bit. Looks good. What I can do is I can take and I can make a copy. If I hold down my Alt key, you'll see that my cursor changes. When I press the Alt key, it changes to a plus sign, which means that I can click and drag a copy away. And this is an easy way to make a copy. So what I can do is move that out to the left side, and this is going to be our list of different chores. So depending on how many chores you have on your list for the kids is how many boxes you would need. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use the transform panel, the scale option, which is the second tab, and I'm going to increase the width of that box a little bit. So we can make that about 2 inches long. That looks about right. And then what I can do is again use my replicate panel on the right hand side, and I can replicate a column of 3 down, can replicate a column of 4 down, and keep replicating until I get to the bottom. Now I probably want to delete. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the top one, use my arrow keys and bring it up just a little bit. Then select all of these boxes, go to my Align tab, and I'm going to space vertically. And that still doesn't give me enough space. I can take my bottom of my page and bring it out a little bit. I haven't decided yet what I want to do with this border, so we'll just leave it for now. I can select my bottom box, bring it down just a little bit, and then select all of them again by left clicking and dragging across all the boxes. Once again, choosing the Align Space Vertical, and it still doesn't give me enough space. Let's just go ahead and delete this last box. Who knows how many chores I will end up with filling this box. We're going to bring that last column down. Who knows, my kids might see these empty boxes and know I can add more things to the list. So I selected all of them again, choosing the Align tool and the space vertically, and that gives them a little bit of space between each. What I think I'm going to do is I'm going to select the outer box and select the chore and bring it up a little bit. I might just delete this outside box. Since it's just going to be printed on a piece of cardstock or copy paper, either one, it's not really necessary that I have a border. If I want to make it fancy, we can do a border and do some color at the end, but that's completely up to you and how much color you want to use to print. So I just moved my days of the week area out a little bit so it was in line a little more with the chore chart area. Now we can go in and start adding some text here. So what I'm going to start with is I'm just going to type, let's start with Sunday. And I'm going to click off of it, click back on it one time. I'm going to change the color. Let's do some blue, a dark blue. It's as dark as I go there. I can change my line style because if I'm printing, I don't want the red to print. We can change that in a couple of different ways, but I want to choose the line color of the same fill color that I have, or I can choose the transparent. Now I can click on my text style panel and I can once again go scrolling through my fonts and see what I would like to add in there. It's a chore chart, so it really doesn't need a fancy scripty font. So we can make it fun though. And then I'm going to shrink it down so it fits in the box. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to zoom in a little bit here. I have a little bit of space, so I could probably increase the size of my boxes a little bit. So we'll move my Sunday out, select all of these boxes so they're all together, and then use this little middle bounding box to stretch them out. Add that up in there again. I can select my text and my box, and then I could choose center, and it'll center it for me. And then when I want to make a copy, I can make a copy. I'll just bring it down here so it's easier to see. If I double click inside of it, I'm going to get my cursor, and I could highlight and delete it and type Monday, and it's going to save those same properties. So then I don't have to keep on changing the properties on it. There's a couple ways we can do this. So I'm just going to delete and add text in there. And this one can probably be, I think I want to take all of them down just a little bit. And then I can reselect it and center it. Since I have my boxes spaced out, I want to try and keep my boxes in one place since they're already aligned together. So I'm just going to select those, and I'm just centering those in my boxes. Type in there. This one's going to have to be shrunk up a little bit. And that looks a little odd. So as you are designing, you just keep on kind of playing with things till you decide what you would like. And each person is going to have a different view on what they like and what works for them. So we just keep on going through each one. And we'll get this last day in here. Okay. So now once we have all of those aligned, we can then go in and we could group that together so it doesn't move. It all stays together. And you could alter the text size if you wanted to. I'm going to go up here to the Chore Chart title, and I'm going to take off this red border. I'm going to go to the Line Styles tab on the right-hand side, and I'm just going to change that line color to transparent, and then it's not going to print or it's not going to show. And then I'm going to make a copy of this box over here, and I'm going to shorten it back up to about the 1 inch, and we're going to place it underneath. So maybe about 1.2, that's a little too big, 1.1. And this will give me the box where I can add another little box that's a checkmark box. So I can either draw a new box, or I can make a copy of this and shrink it down to what I would like to use it as. So I'm going to shrink it. That gives me a perfect square, and I can add this in here. So this is going to be a little box that the kids can check off when they've completed their chores. So as we just go along, I selected all those boxes and I'm going to use the align middle, make sure they're all lined up together. This one here, I can select both of those and I can right click on it and I can group it together. Now when I go to duplicate it, I can duplicate it across the board using my replicate panel. And I can choose the second tab on the replicate panel for the advanced replicate, and I can choose a number. So I can add 6 more, and I can choose a direction that I want it to go in. So I'm going to choose to the right, and I'm going to choose replicate. And it's going to move those all the way over there. I can either use my mouse or I can use my arrow keys, and I can bump that over. Your arrow keys keep going sometimes after you're done. Bump that over so it's aligned under the Saturday, and I can then select everything and use my center align tool and use my horizontal spacing. And that'll line that up. Looks like my center is off again, and I can use the align middle to line those back up, right click on them and choose group. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to see how many boxes I have here. I have 16 boxes, so I can change that to a 16. And I can choose the down arrow and replicate. And it's going to replicate all of those right there for me. Use my arrow key, bump that down, and I'll just make sure by zooming in here that I get it. Looks like it's lined up pretty good. So I'll fit to page again and zoom back out. And I can select all of those and come up here to my space vertical. And now I have created a chart that I can add the chores into. So we can go in here, and the first one that we have on our list is litter boxes. So you can see that's hard to see when you're typing right in the middle of it. I can move it off to the side, select it, and choose to fill it with a color. I'm going to take the line color off of it right now, or select it with the same color. And then I can come over here to my text style panel and I can just choose a font. You can get all as wild and crazy as you want. Or you can go back to your recently used. Looks like that's what I had. And choose a font. Let's see if we can find a fun one. We've got Vintage Type by Lori Whitlock. You can spend all day just scrolling through your fonts, depending on how many you have. Sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. So I can place that, and then I want to put it inside my box. I'm going to zoom in here. And then I could center it within my box. There we go. And I would just make a copy of that by holding my Alt key down and continue on down the line and retype the next chore on the list. Now, since I've done this work in here, I'm going to save this file. So I'm just going to save it right now to my desktop, so I can find it easily to print every week. I can also go into my library and I could pull in some things. that I've collected for chore charts. So I have this chore chart icon. We could just bring in a couple just to play with. You can see I've also collected some other things. I've wanted to do a chore chart here for a while. I could have just used one of these too. But this gives you a little bit of practice and a little bit of play in the design software. So I'm just going to pull in these icons. I think I'm going to use these ones since they are, let's just right click on it and choose open. And then you can see it opens up. I have the different icons. I chose this one because they're all colored in and I don't have to do it myself. So I'm just going to ungroup those. Looks like I have to ungroup them again. And then each one of them is now a separate icon. And what I can use these for is just a little bit of color, a little bit of decoration. So I might choose the trash. I can choose the cleaning. And let's see what else we want to choose in here. We could put the computer time because that's what my kids are earning is their computer time. And we'll just put this one in there. So I can select all of those, Control C to copy those, and then Control V to place those in my design space that I'm working on. So what I might do is I'm just going to decrease this a little bit and center that. And then I could add these little icons over here and select both of them and center that. And those are about the right size. And center that. I like things aligned, so I could select all three of the inside and I could choose space vertically and it's going to space those out vertically from each other. If I group it together, it's going to act as one design and I can select it against the backing and choose center and it's going to center align that even more. So you can see with just a few of your design elements and replicate panel and your align tools, you can create designs within the software. I'm going to finish this out. I'll post a finished photo of it on the blog post below and in the video. And then, I have this chart that I can print out each week that we can hopefully keep track and try to keep ourselves sane during this time. And it'll be easier for the kids to keep track of what they've done, or easier for me to keep track of what they've done and what they haven't done. So thanks for joining me. I hope you learned a few things in this software. Let me know if you have any questions. Thank you.